I was standing in the middle of my parents' 30th anniversary party when my father tapped his wine glass and said into the microphone, and to our eldest daughter, Jessica, who's finally learned how to contribute after 32 years of freeloading. 200 people laughed. I didn't. Because what they didn't know was that in 6 days, a lawyer would read my grandmother's will. And my parents were about to discover that the freeloader they humiliated had just inherited $2 million they thought was theirs. My name is Jessica, and I'm 32 years old. I'm a social worker specializing in foster care placement. I make $46,000 a year. I live in a 900 square foot apartment and drive a 10-year-old Toyota. My parents are Richard and Diane Monroe. My father is a corporate attorney. My mother is a real estate developer. Combined, they make somewhere around $700,000 a year. They live in a 4,000 square foot house with a pool. They vacation in Europe twice a year. And they've spent my entire life telling me I'm not good enough. My younger sister, Natalie, is a marketing executive. She makes 6 figures, drives a BMW, married a hedge fund manager. She's the golden child. I'm the disappointment. I've known this since I was 12. My grandmother, Helen Monroe, was my father's mother. She raised him as a single parent after my grandfather died when my dad was 8. She worked 3 jobs to put him through law school. She was tough, practical, and she loved me in a way my parents never did. When I told her I wanted to be a social worker, she said, "Good. The world needs people who care more about others than money." When I told my parents, my father said, "That's a waste of your education." My grandmother and I were close. We had lunch every other Sunday. She'd ask about my cases, about the kids I was helping. She never once asked about my salary. She died 3 months ago. Pancreatic cancer. It was fast. She was 79. The first time my parents made it clear I was a financial embarrassment, I was 24. I just graduated with my master's in social work. I'd gotten a job at a nonprofit that placed abused children in safe foster homes. I was proud. I called my parents to tell them. My mother answered. I told her about the job, about the kids I'd be helping. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "How much does it pay?" I told her, $38,000 to start. She said, "Jessica, that's barely above poverty. How are you going to live?" I said I'd be fine. She said, "Your sister makes more than that in bonuses." I said, "Good for her." She said, "You could have gone to law school. You could have done something real." I hung up. My grandmother called me that night. She said, "Your mother called me upset. Ignore her. You're doing something that matters." The second time, I was 28. I'd been working at the same nonprofit for 4 years. I'd been promoted to case manager. I was supervising a team. I loved my job. My parents invited me to Thanksgiving. I hadn't been home in 2 years. I thought maybe things had changed. They hadn't. My sister announced at dinner that she and her husband had just bought a second home, a vacation property in Vermont. My father raised his glass. To Natalie, who's everything we hoped our children would be. My mother nodded. It's so nice to have one daughter who's financially responsible. I looked at them. I said, "I'm sitting right here." My father said, "We're just saying Natalie makes smart choices." I left before dessert. My grandmother called me the next day. She said, "They're idiots. Don't let them make you feel small." The third time, I was 31. I'd been at my job for 7 years. I was making $46,000. I'd helped place over 300 children in safe homes. I'd testified in court. I'd changed lives. But my parents only saw the salary. They invited me to their 29th anniversary party. Small gathering, just family and close friends. My father gave a speech. He thanked my mother for 30 years of marriage. Then he said, "And to our daughters. Natalie, who's built an incredible career and life. And Jessica, who's still figuring things out." People laughed uncomfortably. I didn't cry. I just smiled and excused myself to the bathroom. I sat on the closed toilet seat and texted my grandmother. She replied immediately, "They don't deserve you. Come see me this week." 3 months ago, my grandmother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She had weeks, not months. I took a leave of absence from work. I stayed with her. I cooked for her. I read to her. I held her hand when the pain was too much. My parents visited twice, both times for less than an hour. My sister didn't visit at all. She sent flowers. The night before my grandmother died, she was lucid for the first time in days. She held my hand and said, "Jessica, I need to tell you something." I leaned in. She said, "I've left you everything. The house, the savings, all of it. Your father doesn't know. He thinks it's going to him. But I changed my will 6 months ago. I left him nothing." I started crying. She said, "Don't feel guilty. He has more than enough. You've earned this. You've been the only one who cared." She died the next morning. The funeral was 3 days later. My parents were devastated. Not because they'd lost her, but because they'd lost her while barely knowing her. My father gave a eulogy about how much she meant to him. How she'd sacrificed everything for him. How he wished he'd spent more time with her. I sat in the front row and didn't say a word. After the funeral, my father's lawyer, Mr. Brennan, approached me. He said, "Jessica, your grandmother left instructions for the reading of her will. It's scheduled for next Monday. You need to be there." I said, "Of course." He said, "Your parents will be there too." She wanted everyone present. I nodded. I didn't tell my parents what my grandmother had told me. I wanted to see their faces when they found out. But before the will could be read, my parents threw their 30th anniversary party. 200 people. Catered dinner. Live band. Open bar. They spared no expense. I almost didn't go. But my grandmother's voice was in my head. "Don't let them make you disappear." So I went. I wore a simple black dress. I arrived alone. My parents greeted guests like royalty. My mother hugged me and whispered, "Try to mingle. You look so isolated." I smiled and walked away. Halfway through the night, my father stood up to give a speech. He thanked everyone for coming. He talked about 30 years of marriage. He talked about success, legacy, family. And then he said it. "And to our eldest daughter Jessica, who's finally learned how to contribute after 32 years of freeloading." The room erupted in laughter. I stood frozen. My father was grinning. My mother was clapping. My sister was recording it on her phone. I felt my face go hot. But I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just walked out. I got in my car and drove home. I stared in my apartment and stared at the wall for 2 hours. And then I remembered the will reading was in 6 days. And my parents had no idea what was coming. The will reading was scheduled for Monday at 10 a.m. I arrived 15 minutes early. Mr. Brennan greeted me at the door. "Jessica, I'm glad you're here. This is going to be interesting." I asked what he meant. He said, "Your grandmother was very clear about her wishes. She anticipated resistance." My parents arrived 10 minutes late. My father walked in like he owned the place. My mother was on her phone. My sister was with them, dressed like she was attending a board meeting. They barely acknowledged me. My father sat at the head of the table. Mr. Brennan cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming. I'm going to read Helen Monroe's last will and testament as she requested." He opened a folder. The reading took about 10 minutes. Small bequests to charities. A few items to friends. And then he got to the main clause. "I, Helen Monroe, being of sound mind, leave the entirety of my estate to my granddaughter, Jessica Marie Monroe. This includes my home, valued at approximately $650,000, my savings and investment accounts totaling $1.4 million, and all personal property. To my son, Richard Monroe, I leave my wedding ring and the knowledge that he already has more than he needs." Mr. Brennan paused. The room was dead silent. My father stood up. "That's not possible." Mr. Brennan handed him a copy of the will. "It's notarized, witnessed, legal." My mother's face went white. "She wouldn't do this. She wouldn't cut us out." Mr. Brennan said, "She didn't cut you out. She left Richard the ring. But the estate goes to Jessica." My sister looked at me. "Did you know about this?" I didn't answer. My father was shaking. "This is undue influence. Jessica manipulated her. She isolated her from us. We're contesting this." Mr. Brennan pulled out another document. "Helen anticipated that. She had a psychiatric evaluation done 4 months ago. 3 doctors confirmed she was of sound mind and not under any coercion. She also left a letter explaining her decision. She requested it be read aloud." He handed it to me. My hands were trembling. I opened it. The letter was 2 pages, handwritten. I started reading. "To my son, Richard. I love you. I always will. But you've become someone I don't recognize. You've spent your entire life chasing money and status, and in the process, you've forgotten what matters. I worked 3 jobs to give you opportunities. I sacrificed everything so you could have a better life. And you've used that life to make others feel small. Your daughter, Jessica, is the kindest, most selfless person I've ever known. She works with abused children. She makes less in a year than you spend on vacations. And you've spent her entire life making her feel like a failure. I will not reward that. I'm leaving my estate to Jessica, because she's the only one who understands the value of sacrifice. She's the only one who visited me when I was dying. She's the only one who cares about people more than money." I paused. My father's face was red. My mother was crying. I kept reading. "Richard, you have a beautiful home, a successful career, and more money than most people see in a lifetime. You don't need my house. You don't need my savings. But Jessica does. Not because she can't survive without it, but because she deserves to know that someone sees her worth. To Jessica, don't feel guilty. You've earned this. Use it to build the life you want, and don't let your father make you feel like you owe him anything. You don't. Love, Grandma." I folded the letter. The room was silent. Then my father exploded. "This is bullshit. Absolute bullshit. You poisoned her against us." I looked at him calmly. "I visited her. I took care of her. Where were you?" My mother stood up. "We were busy. We have lives. We couldn't just drop everything." I said, "She was dying. And you visited twice." My sister tried to intervene. "Jess, this isn't fair. That money should be split between all of us." I looked at her. "Why? You have a 6-figure salary and a vacation home. What do you need Grandma's money for?" She said, "It's not about need. It's about fairness." I said, "You're right. It is about fairness. And for once in my life, something fair has happened to me." My father pointed at me. We're contesting this. You'll be hearing from our lawyers. Mr. Brennan stood up. You're welcome to try. But Helen included a no contest clause. If you challenge the will and lose, you forfeit the ring and any future claim to the estate. My father went silent. Mr. Brennan continued. She also left a provision. If you contest the will, I'm authorized to release a second letter. This one details every conversation Helen had with you over the last 5 years. Every time you asked her for money. Every time you made Jessica feel worthless in her presence. Every time you prioritized status over family. She kept records. Dates, times, direct quotes. My mother's face crumbled. She wouldn't do that. Mr. Brennan pulled out a sealed envelope. She already did. The letter is written. If you file a contest, it goes public. To the extended family, to your colleagues, to everyone. My father sat down. He didn't say another word. After the reading, my parents tried to talk to me. My father followed me to the parking lot. Jessica, wait. We need to discuss this. I stopped. I turned around. There's nothing to discuss. He said, you can't actually think you deserve all of that money. I said, Grandma thought I did. That's all that matters. He said, we're your parents. We raised you. We paid for your education. You owe us. I looked at him. Really looked at him. I owe you nothing. You paid for my education so you could hold it over my head. You raised me so you could compare me to Natalie. Every conversation we've ever had has been about how I'm not good enough. And now you want me to hand over the one thing someone left me because they actually loved me. He said, your grandmother was confused. She didn't understand what she was doing. I pulled out my phone. She left me a voicemail 2 weeks before she died. Want to hear it? I played it. My grandmother's voice, weak but clear. Jessica, don't let them take this from you. You've given your whole life to helping people who couldn't help themselves. Let me help you for once. I love you. I stopped the recording. My father's eyes were wet. He said, we're still your family. I said, no. You're people I'm related to. There's a difference. I got in my car and drove away. My mother called 17 times that night. I didn't answer. My sister sent a long text about how I was tearing the family apart. I blocked her number. 2 weeks later, my father's lawyer sent a letter. They weren't contesting the will. They were accepting the ring and walking away. The house and the money were mine. I sold the house 3 months later. I used the money to pay off my student loans, buy a small condo, and set up a trust fund for the nonprofit I work for. The trust provides emergency financial support for foster families. It's named after my grandmother. My parents sent a card when the fund was announced. It said, we're proud of you. I threw it away. They tried to reconnect. My mother invited me to Thanksgiving. I declined. My father sent an email saying he wanted to repair our relationship. I didn't respond. My sister called from a number I didn't recognize. She said we made mistakes, but we're still family. I said, you're still the people who called me a freeloader in front of 200 people. That doesn't change. She hung up. That was 8 months ago. I live in my condo now. It's small, but it's mine. I still work at the nonprofit. I still make $46,000 a year, but I have security for the first time in my life. And I have something my parents will never understand: peace. My grandmother left me more than money. She left me validation. She left me proof that someone saw who I really was and loved me for it. My parents spent my entire life trying to make me feel worthless. And in the end, the person they dismissed as unimportant ended up with the one thing they wanted. I don't hate them. I just don't need them. They're still living in their big house, still going to their parties, still pretending everything is fine. But I know the truth. They lost more than an inheritance. They lost the chance to know me, and that's something money can't buy back. My grandmother taught me that worth isn't measured by salary. It's measured by how you treat people when there's nothing to gain. And by that measure, I'm richer than my parents will ever be.